My name is Mr. Jones. Very good to see you today. Please make yourself nice and comfortable. Now, today we are doing a personality type test, and this is going to be similar but not identical to the MBTI test. That stands for the Myers-Briggs Type Indicator Test. And at the end of this, I will assess your answers that you give me. I'm going to go away, look at the answers you give me, and then I'll come back to you and give you your results. You'll get a little 4-letter code, and that will stand for various different things like introversion, extroversion, judgment feeling, things like that. We will go over the meaning of your code once we've got it, okay? And we'll talk about the implications of your code and your special personality type. But we'll do that after we do the test, of course. Okay, so this test, what I'm going to do is I'm going to read you a series of statements. There will be 2 different statements, and I want you to choose which of those 2 statements applies to you personally the most. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. We're going to do the first one now. We'll do this one a little bit slower than the rest, just to make sure that you know we understand what's going on. Okay, so the first statement for you. When faced with a challenge, I prefer to think the problem through, using my knowledge and experience to come up with a solution that I know will work. The approach doesn't have to be glamorous as long as it gets the job done. Now, does that sound like you, or does this sound like you? When faced with a challenge, I tend to end up exploring and imagining new possibilities that I have not pondered before, and the excitement can sometimes lead me away from the original problem. Which of those 2 statements sounds more like you, the first statement or the second? Okay, very good, excellent. Okay, so that's how it's going to work. That was the first statement. We're going to continue now along these lines. Obviously, the statement might not apply perfectly to you, but I just want you to choose the one that you think more applies to you. Okay, so continuing on with number 2. In resolving conflicts, which approach do you find you more often take? A principled approach based upon justice and logic, or a kind-hearted approach based on personal understanding and good faith? Which of those 2? Okay, very good, very good. Okay, next. When meeting new people, I easily think of things to say that get the conversation flowing. Or, when meeting new people, I like to size them up before I initiate conversation. Which of those 2? Okay, very good. Next. In school, which kind of teacher frustrated you more? Vague and unclear teachers who expected students to magically infer what they expected them to do and what the criteria for success was, or teachers who did not allow their students to push against the boundaries of the tasks that they were assigned by bringing knowledge from other fields to bear on the subject, for example. Okay, very good, very good. Let's go to the next one. When a new situation arises, I prefer to withdraw and think things through until I am certain I understand it. Or, when a new situation arises, I prefer to engage the situation and to share my thoughts about it with other people. Which one of those 2? analysis. Okay, very good. Next. After a dinner party, others would be more likely to complain that I talked too much and dominated the conversation, or that I didn't talk enough and left it to others to keep the conversation going. Okay, very good. Next, which is more true of your interactions with people? Although I enjoy seeing friends one-to-one, I find it more stimulating to hang out with several people at once. The more the merrier. Or, although I enjoy the liveliness of a group setting, I tend to seek out one-to-one conversation and often end up in one, even within a group. Okay, very good. Good choice, very good. Next. Which is closer to your usual way of approaching a task? I tend to size up the demands of the task and identify which parts of the job are crucial and which are non-essential, and I then work around the non-essential parts in order to get things done quicker. Or, when I'm working on something, I prefer the results are solid. That means that I may overdo some of the non-essential parts of the work, but I tend to find that cutting corners is just more work in the long run. Which of those two statements? Okay, very good. Very good, well done. Let's keep going, let's keep going. I often feel the urge to roll my eyes when others don't have their act together, or when others are inflexible and lack spontaneity. Which one of those two? Okay, very good. Which statement do you agree with the most? Feelings are irrational and have no place in truth seeking, or logical analysis is a valuable tool, but some people seem sadly oblivious to its limitations. Okay, very good. Next, which of these two statements is closer to your natural state of mind? Planning ahead can often be stifling because you never know when an unexpected opportunity might present itself. While I may shift from pursuit to pursuit because of this mindset, I only truly feel at ease when I have the freedom to call my own shots. Or, planning ahead is necessary for me to feel relaxed and prepared for what I want to do. While I might miss some opportunities that fly by my nose because of this mindset, I only truly feel at ease when I know that I can be allowed to structure and plan my pursuits. Which one of those is more applicable to you? Okay, very good, very good. Now, like to spend time with others, but I predominantly get my energy and focus from being alone. Or I like spending time alone, but I am predominantly energized by activities that involve spending time with others. Okay, very good, very good. Next, as a leader, are you more likely to be evaluated as wishy-washy and ineffective, or bossy and inflexible? Okay, very good. Which is more true of you? I communicate directly and at face value, and I prefer not to assume something that wasn't said. Or I can't help but read between the lines and feel, rightly or wrongly, that I know where people are going and what their motives are. Okay, very good. Next, when cooking a new dish, do you prefer to closely follow a recipe or make it up as you go along? Okay, very good. Now, which more often happens to you? Someone asks me a question and doesn't give me enough time to think of an answer before they resume talking. Or I ask someone a question and I get impatient when they don't answer right away. Okay, very good. Next, I am a person who keeps their heart warm or keeps their head cold. Heart warm or head cold. Okay, good. In what kind of workplace do you thrive? A fast-paced environment where I don't get bored, or an unhurried environment where I can concentrate? Okay, very good. If someone wants to convince you of something, they should show me the logic, pointing out how their position is more rational than competing positions, or they should show me how their position connects with my values and how it affects the people involved. Okay, good choice. Let's see that. When looking ahead to something in the future, you feel better if you have settled on a viable course of action, or if you get to keep your options open. I see. Okay, very good. Which of these is more true of you? I make explicit and detailed agreements about who will do what when, and I expect people to stick to them. Or I prefer to let developments arise and then react spontaneously, and I expect others to be equally adaptable. Which of those two statements? Very good, okay. Right then. I am more concerned with envisioning possibilities, those exciting maybes which may or may not be real, or I am more concerned with minding the facts, familiarizing myself with that which is and mastering it. Okay, very good. Next, I enjoy a social gathering more if I find myself engaged in intellectually stimulating conversation with someone who gets what I'm saying. first and foremost want to address the obvious practical problems associated with each idea. Of course, I welcome quality innovation, but I get impatient with starry-eyed dreaming, which in fact contributes little of real value. Okay, good. Now then, I would rather have certain and reliable facts that I can know for sure are true, or tentative and prospective theories, even if they may not ultimately be true. Okay, good. Which is more true of you? While I can be mindful of whatever values and personal viewpoints a person subscribes to, at the end of the day, what really interests me is whatever impersonal or objective thoughts they may be able to bring to the table. Or, while I can be mindful of whatever impartial and objective insights a person is espousing, at the end of the day, what really interests me is their personal viewpoint and the values that are important to them. Okay, good, very good. Next, which is closer to your view? People tend to make mistakes when they don't use their head and listen to reason. Or people tend to make mistakes when they don't listen to their personal sense of what they know is right. Okay, very good. Next, all things considered, I am pensive and a bit impractical, or I am pretty factual and hands-on. Okay. I am more product-oriented. I focus on what needs to be done, and I impose the necessary structure to get there and to reach the goal on time. Or I am process-oriented. I resist structure as I see it as suffocating by not allowing for new opportunities and information. Okay, very good. Next, when others communicate, I more often get distracted when they demonstrate a disregard for others' feelings or an awareness of their own feelings, or I get more distracted when they make errors of logic or fact. Okay. My awareness is naturally focused on the actual realities that we all awake to every morning. Theory for theory's sake does not particularly interest me, or thoughts and theories removed from time and place, the here and now does not particularly interest me. Which of those two statements applies to you? Okay, very good. Okay, now, which is more true of you? I come across as reserved and hard to get to know, or others start to open up more when I am around. Okay, which is more true of you? I like brainstorming and airing my new ideas in order to get a sense of how others will react. Or I like thinking about my new ideas in the peace and quiet of my own mind, mulling over the implications alone. Okay. Which is more true of you? I am laid back and like to improvise, or I like to be on top of things. Okay. disagree on an issue, they should meet each other in open argument, each stating the points that they have in favour of their position and refuting the other person's arguments with counter arguments. They should use an impartial standard to evaluate what each person has said. Or, when people disagree on an issue, they should be sensitive to where each of them is coming from, as well as the experiences that led each person to hold the beliefs that they hold now. And they should give each other space to lay out their personal perspectives and to try and be understanding of each other. Okay, very good. And I do believe that is actually all of the statements, all of the questions that I had to ask you today. Okay, so as I said earlier, I'm going to review the answers that you gave me today. I've got them all here on my little computer, on my little laptop here, okay? And I'm going to be giving you a 4-letter code. There will be, for example, between introversion and extroversion, and sensing and intuition, between thinking and feeling, and between judging and perceiving. Okay, we'll go into more detail in our next session together once we have your results, and we'll look at each of these things and what they really mean and how they apply to real life. Okay, so that's everything that I wanted to ask you and do with you today. I'm very happy with your effort that you've put in today. Excellent job focusing for so long. I know the way some of these statements are worded